It's been exactly 1 year since I left Fuji and gone Sony. Let's get into it. So, like I said in the intro, it's been a year since I left Fuji and gone Sony. And full disclosure, the first Sony camera I ever owned was an A6000. And it was just kind of a everyday shoot around camera to uh, complement my Nikon. I shot Nikon for roughly 14 years, something like that. And lack of customer service and listening to the customer base caused me to jump to Fuji. That and along with form factor, size, and some personal health issues caused me not to be able to carry the DSLRs anymore because they were a little bit heavier. So going to Fuji, I was amazed by with their color profiles. I love the build quality. I love the cameras, the sharpness. The lenses were amazing. And the fact that I could carry 2 bodies and 6 lenses and still not be half as heavy as my Nikon with 3 lenses was just amazing. It was perfect to travel with. It was perfect to work with, all of that. The issue shows up when Fuji dropped the XH2. Amazing camera out of the box, had no issues with it. Once I start with a brand, I kind of go all in with the brand. So I had, the 56, the 20. I had pretty much the whole line of lenses, and had just purchased a 150 to, was it 400, 150 to 600? I can't remember. Was it 400 to 600? Anyway, it was there. It was a super telephoto. I got it specifically for sports and like air shows, get some distance, things like that. Everything worked perfectly. It was amazing. I was getting great content. I was happy with what I was getting. And with me no longer shooting the things I was shooting, Fuji just, it was still a great camera and fulfilled all my needs. The issue came with an update that Fuji did. And with the update, I started noticing that in low light situations, the photos, like the shadows, would become super grainy and muddy and soft. And it became almost unusable images where I would have to go in the Lightroom and sharpen them and try to denoise every time I used them. And I thought maybe it was me, user error. That's the first thing you do. And so it was so I shot fashion for years, and I switched from fashion to photojournalism. And photojournalism, time is king. And it was slowing me down. The Fuji's was slowing me down. No matter what program I used, whether it was Lightroom, Capture One, Photo Mechanic, it just seemed like the Fuji files weren't the same. And I thought, well, maybe it's me. Maybe it's something I'm doing. So I put that XH2, which is one of their flagship cameras, to test with my XT20 XS10 is that what I had. And the SX10 was much sharper. So the only thing it could have been was the update. So I contacted a few people from Fuji and explained the issue. And, from their end, there was nothing wrong. It had to be something I was doing. And I kept saying, no, it's not me, it's not me, it's not me. And they kept saying it was me. So I need in my line of work, something that's going to work. I can't go in with ifs, ands, and maybes. So to give a little backstory, I sold cameras for roughly 11 years at a local shop here at Humble Camera Center. And shout out to those guys. And then I worked a year at another camera shop that I will not name. And so I know my cameras. I've used everything. I've shot just about everything. I've owned quite a few cameras. And I know how things work on the consumer side and as far as the business side. So I got to doing some research, and I initially considered going Canon because that's a brand I had never gone fully in on. And I wasn't going to go back to Nikon. I don't like going backwards. I wasn't going to go back to Nikon. At the time when I got ready to change, Nikon was kind of going through turmoil. I guess they were preparing to go mirrorless, and it just didn't seem like they had a clear direction as far as the company goes. So Canon, I thought about, and then I kind of started comparing Canon and Sony, and what led me to finally going to, so I had a pros and cons list, and what put the list more in Sony's favor was customer service. I majority of times that I leave a brand, whether it's photography or whatever, it's because of customer service. I'm what you call one of those loyal customers. I'm in all the way until you just screw up, and then I'm out. And that was kind of, like I said, the reason I left Nikon was because they just didn't seem like they were listening to their customer base. One of the things that I loved about Fuji was that them being a smaller company, they listened to their customer base, and they did personal touches to things that I rather respected them for. And then so to have all of a sudden kind of this turn on customer service where the customer, and don't get me wrong, I've worked retail. I understand sometimes the customer is not right, but when someone's adamant about something, at least investigate it, and that didn't happen. So I ended up reaching out to a few people at Canon. I never heard anything back, and it was getting down to, well, I want to get something new and switch. And Sony was kind of nagging in the back of my head, like, why don't you just try Sony? Why don't you just try Sony? So that's what I did. Like I said earlier, I had an A6000. It was a nice camera. I enjoyed it. I had a Canon M50 before. Nice camera, enjoyed it. But I just needed something that was going to be a workhorse. I needed something that was going to deliver when I needed to deliver. And I had kind of gotten spoiled with the Fuji colors. So it was kind of going to be hard for me to, everything was going to kind of be compared to that. And I ended up picking up the A7 IV, and I haven't looked back since. This has been one amazing camera. The last full frame camera I had was a Nikon D750. For the things I shot, it didn't necessarily warrant full frame or crop sensor. It didn't really matter. But since I've had this camera for this year, this full frame has spoiled me. The megapixel count has spoiled me. The image quality has spoiled me. Rarely do I have to go in and sharpen anything. Rarely do I have to do much fixes. And that's great for photojournalism because you don't want to do too much to alter an image. I may have to do some user error corrections like exposure, highlights, things like that. But that's just, user error. It's not camera specific. Although Sony cameras are a little bit heavier than the Fuji camera, it hasn't been a drag to carry around. I ended up going originally with a Zeiss 24-70 and a 70-200 and a 51.8, just to kind of have a 3 lens kit. But honestly, for what I do, the 24-70 and the 70-200 are the lenses that I use the most. The dual memory card slots, again, no issues there. The menu system, to me, even as selling the cameras and being someone that repaired them, the menu system to me always seemed to be a little, I don't want to say robust, but it seemed like it was too much of a menu. All the pages, all the selections. But once you kind of know where you need to go, it's easy to navigate it. And I think currently the way it's laid out now, I have no issues with it. The way it's laid out now, where everything's kind of just scroll down. I don't know if you can see that, but how everything just kind of scrolls down and you have your tabs and where you need to go. It's simple. It becomes second nature pretty quickly. This camera has been everywhere with me, and I don't see, unless Sony like just completely screws the pooch, I don't think I'll be leaving. I think I'm going to be a Sony guy from now on. I have nothing but good things to say about the Sony and their cameras. Again, the images, I'm super happy with the images, and the video quality I'm happy with. Although I don't use the video as much, I will be using it more now since I'm back doing the YouTube channel. But I have nothing but rave reviews to say about Sony and their gear now. Not that I had anything specifically bad to say about it before, but to me, before, one of the things that always kind of kept Sony on a back burner to me was cost. I didn't think that the cost of Sony cameras versus other brands warranted the cost, but the old adage is you get what you pay for. And now that I use Sony, I'm in their ecosystem, I understand the extra cost. There were some other things that kind of nitpicky things that I had issues with Sony, I'm sorry, early on, watching other Sony users deal with the cameras. But those things that turned into really like first world problems. And I don't tend to use the word fanboy a lot, but I think I've become a fanboy of Sony and their gear. And full disclosure, like when I say I go all in on a brand, I go all in on a brand. I have Nikon and Fuji coffee cups in my cabinet. I have in my jacket pocket that I wear when I work, I have a Fuji headband. Like I get ridiculous when I find a brand that I like. I am a Sony guy now, and I don't see myself going to another brand anytime soon, or at this point in my career ever. I'll probably retire a Sony guy. Now let's talk about what actually once I got Sony. Let's talk about what put me over the top, where I was like, yeah, this is my brand now. It was the performance of the camera. The way the camera performs when you need it to perform. When you click that, when you switch that front dial on and get ready to get to work, the Sony's ready to get to work. The frames per second, perfect for me. On the A7 IV, I don't need anything super fast. I think the one real test I took it to was, it may have been, yeah, actually it was the air show. Houston has a local air show out at Ellington Field every year. I can't wait to go back this year, actually in October. But I took it out there to kind of just run it through its paces, see if the frames per second, will work, how the full frame will react when I needed the distance. And I gotta say, man, I'll put some examples in while I talk here. But the performance was great. The images came out great, and so last year, actually, was it last year? Yeah, so last year's air show actually coincided. So the air show happened as the eclipse happened. So in the middle of the show, there's an eclipse going on. So I was able to get some photos of that. So the lighting was strange. I don't know if you've ever shot in eclipse lighting, but it was like a strange, almost like a filter on the sun. It was weird. But in those conditions, the Sony performed beautifully. I had no issues with that camera at all. And I look forward to doing more work with this brand. Not only working it on my own work, but working with Sony as well. So that's my next mission right now, is to work on getting to be some sort of ambassador or something with Sony. Also, here's the other thing too. I was concerned with how the files would edit. With my professional work, I don't edit anything. You can't do that for journalism. But for my personal work, I was concerned of how the images would edit. I don't shoot fashion full time anymore, but I still dip and dab back into it with certain people. And, I still do some street photography and travel photography, things like that. Although since I've gotten the camera, I haven't traveled yet. So I'm looking forward to that. But everything else, the edits, the files will take and edit very well. I haven't had any issues editing anything, and actually, it's actually caused me to once again jump back into Lightroom. Lightroom had an issue with Fuji files. I think it still does, as far as editing those files, and it just doesn't receive Fuji RAW files very well from my experiences. And so I ended up having to use Capture One to do that. Actually, using the Sony cameras, Lightroom accepts them wonderfully. And so I don't actually even use Capture One anymore. I still have my Capture One subscription, but I'll probably be canceling that because I'm able to perform everything I need in Lightroom, even to the point where I don't think I've opened Capture One in the last 5 months. And I kind of opened it when the last time I opened it, I think it was an update, and I just wanted to check out the update. But I may hold on to Capture One just to do some editing videos with you guys, just to show you. But for the most part, I'm back on Lightroom, using Lightroom, and everything's been perfectly fine. And we'll do another video about Lightroom later and how they've advanced. But I can't say enough about how my concerns jumping from Fuji to Sony were just immediately squashed the minute I started using the cameras, and just shooting with and enjoying their ecosystem. The updates have been easy to do and perform. Ease of use is super easy. So it's hard to have anything negative to say about the camera when all it does is perform when you need it to perform. As a photographer, that's all you can ask for. When I get ready to work, you should be ready to work. I shouldn't have an issue. I shouldn't go into a situation hoping I get the best images or hoping that you perform like you're supposed to. I shouldn't have to get home and go, I hope I got that, or I hope that looks good, or the lighting was kind of bad in there, I hope it performs. And sadly to say, Fuji ended up losing my confidence and losing me as a customer. Not that they care or they should care. They're a huge company. They have other customers, and I'm not gonna bash Fuji. That's not what I'm doing here. Fuji still makes great cameras. They still make good products, and their colors are still amazing. And eventually I may end up getting another throw around Fuji, but I don't know. It's just, once I sour on you as a customer, it's hard for me to go back. I was kind of hoping at looking at getting a kind of everyday carry camera. And honestly, I'll probably, if that day comes where I feel like I need one, I'll probably go with the A6000 series. I am happy where I'm at now. So with that being said, guys, thank you for tuning into the video. Please like, subscribe, share, comment down below if you have any other questions. If you have videos you want to see, let me know. And don't forget about the podcast, Oh Sweet. I will be releasing some new episodes of that soon. And again, thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you later. Have a good one.